All right, let's dive into a story that's a little bit different. We're going to take some pretty dense 19th century philosophy, we're talking Nietzsche, and see what happens when you smash it together with cosmic horror and, believe it or not, a superhero origin story. We're going to go on a journey from a quiet, dusty study all the way to the edge of reality to understand an idea that is so powerful, it is genuinely terrifying. And this right here, this is the core of it all. The horror we're about to unpack isn't some monster or some cackling bad guy. No, the horror is a being that has evolved so far past us that our entire rulebook, our ideas of good and evil, they just don't apply anymore. They become meaningless. And that's what's truly scary. So, let's meet our protagonist. The story doesn't start with a cosmic explosion, but with the scratching of a pen in a world that is just built on a foundation of fear. At the center of this whole thing is a scholar, and he's no hero, not in the way we usually think of them. He's physically weak, his body is literally being destroyed by illness. But inside this frail, collapsing shell, there's a fire, a divine frenzy. This is a man who is staring into the abyss, into a world where God is dead, and he is not blinking. He refuses to accept the comforting lies his entire era is built on. So, what is this system he's rejecting? It's what Nietzsche called slave morality. And you gotta understand, this isn't just a set of rules. It's a kind of psychological defense mechanism for an entire culture. It's a system where the weak, the fearful get together and essentially decide that their weakness, humility, pity, is actually good, and the strength and ambition of the powerful is inherently evil. It's a total rebranding of virtue, born straight out of resentment. And this lays out the central conflict perfectly. On one side, you have morality of the herd. It comes from fear, and it judges everything in these stark, absolute terms of good versus evil. But on the other side, you have master morality. This is born from power, from pride. It doesn't see evil in things it opposes, it just sees bad. And bad just means weak, pathetic, contemptible. This is the philosophical war zone for our scholar's soul. Now, this struggle doesn't just stay in the scholar's head. Nope, it blows up to a cosmic scale. We're talking fundamental forces of the universe placing bets on what happens to this one guy. And here's the bet. In one corner, you've got Mephistopheles, the ultimate cynic. He's betting that if you give this scholar ultimate power, he'll crumble. He'll beg for the simple comforts of being human again. But in the other corner is the all-will, basically the embodiment of the universe's drive to overcome, the will to power. And it's betting he'll do the opposite, that he'll seize a freedom so absolute, it's horrifying. But of course, humanity can't just let things play out. In our classic hubris, we decide to jump in and try to control a force that we can't even begin to understand. So here's our brilliant plan, laid out in all its arrogance. The goal? Create a weaponized Overman. The method? Build this gamma-fueled cage. The intent? To make a super slave to fight our petty little wars. But here is the fundamental, catastrophic miscalculation. They thought the power was in the gamma rays. It never was. The energy was just a key unlocking a door that was already inside the scholar's own will. And that incredible mistake leads directly to this, the moment everything changes, the apotheosis, the point where that cage they built to contain him becomes the very engine of his rebirth. One word, a thunderclap, Kimoda. In the comics this story pulls from, it's a magic word, right? A trigger. But here, it's the sound of a will shattering its chains. The scholar we knew is gone. And standing in his place is Wotan. And he isn't just a man with powers. He is an idea that has been given a body. The whole concept of Nietzsche's Overman, the Übermensch, is no longer just a theory in a book. It is alive, it is breathing, and it is looking down on its creators. And the break is absolute. He doesn't say thank you, he doesn't look back. He literally steps over the people who made him. Why? Because ideas like gratitude, pity, compassion, they're all part of that slave morality he just shed like a snakeskin. He's running on a totally different operating system now, a post-human one, where he alone decides what has value and what has meaning. And that brings us right back to where we started, the horror. See, this isn't a hero's journey. It's the story of a world that is suddenly staring at a being that functions completely outside of our shared reality of right and wrong. So what is he? A savior for breaking the chains of a weak value system? Or a monster for abandoning everything that makes us human? The thing is, the parable suggests he's neither. He's just what comes next. I mean, just look at the reaction from Mephistopheles, the ultimate cynic. He's not celebrating. He's actually disturbed. He lost his bet spectacularly. He expected a broken man crying for comfort, and instead he gets this tyrant of the will, a being so free that you can't manipulate it, you can't tempt it, you can't bargain with it. To a being like Mephistopheles, that is true terror. And that is the real gut punch of this whole story. The horror isn't that Wotan is evil, an earthquake isn't evil. It's that he doesn't hate us. He doesn't think about us. We are to him what single-celled organisms are to us. We've just become completely and totally irrelevant. The true terror is realizing you're not the main character of the story anymore.
And this metaphor just perfectly captures it all. He's not an attack on humanity. He's a fundamental change in the weather of reality. His existence is like a hurricane so massive, the very idea of building a shelter becomes a joke. You can't reason with it, you can't hide from it, you can only be in the wind. So the parable leaves us chewing on this one unsettling question. The story of Wotan isn't really about him. It's a question pointed right back at us. What happens when we actually achieve our full potential? Does it save us? Or does it transform us into something so new, so powerful, that our own humanity becomes nothing more than a fossil, a forgotten relic?